So I just finished watching Masters of the Universe Revelation on Netflix. And before I give you my first impression thoughts, I want to say that if you have not seen it and you plan on watching it, do not watch me. Go watch it and then come back, because I am going to be talking about spoilers. Now, this isn't a formal review. I'm not going to be breaking down each episode and reviewing it in that sense. I'm not a reviewer. That's not what I do here. But I do want to talk about it in a general sense and about something specific, because I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion because of the backlash that the series is getting. I really liked it. I have to admit, I really liked it. I'm invested. I'm in. I want to see what happens next. And we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about why I am compared to maybe the vast majority of people who are not. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm 42 years old. I was born in 1979. I grew up through the 1980s as a young boy. I loved He-Man. I had all the toys. I watched the cartoon. I would rush home from school, because where I'm from here in Toronto, Canada, it was on at 3:30 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, or, whatever it was. And I think there were 2 episodes back to back, and I loved it. I loved it. I even liked, I didn't love, but I liked the 87 movie. And I was a huge fan. I had the costumes, and I had the sword, and I'd be out in the woods with my sword and shit. You know how it was. You know how it was if you were a kid growing up through the 1980s and you loved He-Man. So I was really excited to learn that they were doing a direct sequel to this 80s cartoon, picking up however many years later. It's an extension of that story. So I was really looking forward to that. Now, I didn't and haven't read any of the other comics or the books or the graphic novels, if there are any. I never watched any of I never watched any of the later cartoons. So I don't know anything about that. I just am like 80s He-Man shit. Okay. Just so you know. So I was really looking forward to this. And like I said, I liked it. I really did. Now, it's only 5 episodes. They're 23, 24 minutes each. It's very easy watch. But there is a bigger world that they are building, and there is a season 2 that is definitely coming. So it's only 5 episodes. So you have to take it, for what it is. It's only the beginning, really, at the end of the day. Now, the backlash that this is getting is, I believe it's got like 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. Now, I know what you're thinking. Fuck the critics. I don't really care. No, I know. I get it. I'm just saying that's what it is. The critics love it. And it's got something like 20-something% from the fans. The fans, generally speaking, do not like it. Now, why is that? Okay, well, it's the woke thing. I know. Some of you might be going, oh God, here we go. I didn't get that, but that doesn't mean that I don't see what they're talking about. It doesn't mean that I can't intellectualize what they're talking about and understand what they're getting at. But for me, I was so emotionally invested in the story and in the revelations that were happening. Oh my God, we're going to get into that in a second, that it didn't bother me. So I was like, okay, it didn't really, because the story was so good. It made sense. The character motivations for the reasons of why we're following certain characters at this point in time made sense. It didn't feel shoehorned in to me. It didn't feel synthetic to me. It felt organic. It felt like, yes, this feels right. And it's only the first 5 episodes, for God's sakes. So people are upset because there really is no He-Man in it. Okay. And it follows really Teela and her friend and Orko and Man-at-Arms and it's real, and Evil Lynn, and it's really about that. But there's reasons for that, okay, which I'll get into in a second. And, Kevin Smith said on Twitter, I believe it was, when somebody tried to call him out on that a month or so ago, because that looked very much kind of like it could be like that from the trailer. Kevin Smith said something to the effect of, no, this is not a Teela-centric thing. This is He-Man too. He-Man is not pushed aside. He's a big part of the thing. And he's not in the first 5 episodes. I mean, he's there in spirit, but he's not physically there in each episode. And there's a reason for it, which I'll talk about. And, Kevin Smith could play the semantics game, and he could spin this if he wanted to and say something to the effect of, well, I'm talking about the bigger picture. I'm talking about the overall story. I mean, you've only seen the first 5 episodes, guys. Calm your shit. Come back to me again when you've watched 30 episodes. Do you know what I mean? Like, and to be fair, he could play that. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But I think a lot of fans are upset because it just perpetuates, it just looks like it is what they thought it was going to be. And, you know, it seems like we live in a world nowadays where everything is black and white. There's no nuance anymore. And if you put two gay people in a scene together, it's immediately woke. You know what I mean? It's just, here we go. Here, fuck you. You got a girl. You know, I'm not saying everybody is like that, but that is sort of the realm we live in now. So, I didn't feel that because of the creative choices and the character motivations. But that doesn't mean that I don't understand it. And maybe because of the bold creative choices they made in the first episode, which we're going to talk about, maybe it was because maybe there should have been a buffer. Maybe they should have had, you know, a few He-Man centric episodes and then done that, right? You know, warm the fans that need a glass of milk and a cookie, you know, warm them up a bit, you know, prepare them a bit for the, you know, eventual bombshell that's going to drop. But when you're only doing 5 episodes and you're telling a story over that 5 episodes, you don't have time to do that. So, I mean, maybe if they had, you know, they had released the first 10 episodes, maybe that's how they could have structured it, but they didn't. So, you know, it feels like Teela's taking over, right? It feels like this is a Teela show. It's a girl show. It's a girl power show. It's a Teela show. And, you know, I mean, again, I can intellectualize how they can perceive that, why they would perceive that, how they could see that. But it's the first 5 episodes of a much larger story, right? So that's how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm watching it. That's how I'm invested. And, you know, so what happens in that first episode? Well, He-Man dies. You know, the first episode feels very kind of much how we remember. It took me a bit to get used to the animation because it's generally not animation that I would watch. So it did take me a couple of episodes to get used to that. But by the 3rd episode, I'm in. But He-Man dies, not without, you know, a battle and all that kind of stuff. But something happens at the end of the first episode where He-Man dies and Skeletor dies. And it just throws the entire fucking, you know, planet of Eternia up into chaos. Like nobody knows what the fuck's gonna happen. Like what the fuck is going on? He-Man's gone. Skeletor is gone. There's revelations about, you know, Prince Adam being He-Man. I mean, in the 80s cartoon, nobody knew. I mean, Man-at-Arms knew. Orko knew. The Sorceress knew. And I believe his mother knew. But in this episode, in the first episode, Teela finds out and his dad finds out and fucking people are finding out. It's like, holy fuck, are you kidding me? It was crazy to see that. It was like, holy shit, because he's gone and no one knows, you know, what are we going to do? Who's going to be the protector of Eternia now? Like, what the fuck is going to happen, right? And then Teela like feels like she's like banished she feels kind of like wronged and pissed off because Adam didn't tell her the truth all these years. He's been lying to her and she feels like she just doesn't get along with her father and fuck this shit, and she takes off, so she's gone. Man-at-Arms is like banished and shit, like, and the same shit's happening at Snake Mountain because Skeletor is gone. It's like, what the fuck are we gonna do? We don't have structure, we don't have routine, everything's been tossed into chaos, right? So it's really cool to kind of see that, and we learn more about Castle Grayskull and the origins, and, you know, they take you on this journey to kind of, you know, of that discovery of who these characters are and what is this world going to be like without He-Man and Skeletor, and of course, you know, they're going to come back. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Of course they're going to come back, but it's cool to see this journey, this somewhat of a hero's journey, not exactly, but it's in that in the spirit of that, I guess. And it's cool to see Teela kind of discover the strength in her as well, because she's the daughter of Man-at-Arms, and Man-at-Arms is fucking kick-ass, fucking badass motherfucker. So, I mean, it's kind of obvious that she would have that in her as well. She's clearly not a Mary Sue. I mean, she was kicking ass in the 80s cartoon as well. And we have to remember that there were Teela-centric episodes in the 80s. 100% there were. I mean, yes, He-Man was in every episode. He'd maybe come to her aid or something. But I mean, there were Teela stories, and she would kick ass. She was a tough cookie in that 80s cartoon too. I mean, she looks a little muscular and like she belongs in the UFC in this episode, but I'm just saying she was, she definitely has always kicked some ass. So, you know, it was cool to see her sort of learning more about her character. And, you know, yeah, it was just, I didn't mind it. It didn't feel preachy to me. It didn't feel condescending. It didn't feel pretentious like the Black Christmas 2019 film did. For me, if you enjoyed that film, there's nothing wrong with that. For me, that movie felt like it felt like a political message with a movie attached to it. And listen, I don't have anything wrong with social commentary and empowering women and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you do it too preachy or too on the nose, you're going to turn people off. It needs to be subtext. It needs to be woven in. It needs to make sense. The motivations and the choices that the characters make need to make sense. And these first 5 episodes, it makes sense to me. I thought the writing was really good. So I hate to break it to everybody out there who not that I have a lot of Masters of the Universe fans that watch me, but for those of you who are tuning in hoping I would rip it apart, I'm invested. I want to see what happens next. And again, since we're talking spoilers here, it was cool to see Evil Lynn and Teela team up. Not like team up, but they realize that, I don't want to get too heavy, but they're on a journey to discover, to get something that both of their lives and everybody's life and the life on Eternia depends on. So whether you're good or evil, you might as well just let your differences like go by the wayside and team up for now. We've seen that kind of thing in movies before, right? And that was kind of cool to see, right? And then Evil Lynn takes off her head thing. She's got like this long white hair. That was really fucking cool. I love seeing that. I was a little worried with Mark Hamill's performance as Skeletor. He's an exceptionally talented dude. But I was concerned that maybe we'd hear too much of Joker in Skeletor. I wasn't quite sure how he was going to handle Skeletor. Like, are we going to hear more like, hello? And I was kind of like, are we going to? We didn't, which was good. I'm glad we didn't hear that, because the nuances and the subtleties of his performance, I can tell it's Mark Hamill, and we all can, but it was different enough that I was invested in Skeletor, and that was cool to see, right? But it's crazy at the end of the 5th episode, spoiler alert, like we didn't know this was going to happen. He-Man, of course, comes back. Adam comes back. He actually was dead, and there's like this other world. I think it's called Pre-Eternia or something? I just watched it. I've only seen it once. Where people go. It's like a heaven, right? So he is dead, but Teela and Evil Lynn and everybody venture there to this other world, like this other dimension, and you learn more about, the mythology and the history of Eternia and Castle Grayskull and shit. It was really cool. It's shit we never saw in the 80s cartoon. Not that I can remember. I mean, at least nothing my 6-year-old or 5-year-old self was absorbing. And I thought it was really cool. And then, of course, Adam does come back. He sacrifices his place in heaven to come back, because they need him essentially. And he's about to, and then, they're there at Castle Grayskull, and he's about to take out the sword. He's got the sword, like a new sword was made because at the end of the first episode, it was destroyed and kind of shit. You got to watch it. It's fucking amazing shit. And then he takes out the thing and he's like, by the power of Grayskull, and then he's stabbed. He's stabbed by Skeletor. Didn't fucking see that coming at all. I was like, oh, it was like when Superman at the end of Man of Steel fucking takes and breaks the neck. It's like, oh, ow. Didn't see it coming. Same thing here. I was like, oh shit. Adam fucking dies twice. He dies at the end of the first episode and the end of the 5th episode. And Skeletor's all like, you know what I mean? And then Skeletor fucking takes the sword and he goes, by the power of Grayskull. He wants to be a god, right? I have the power shit. He turns into this god. And the 5th episode ends with Skeletor like this mythical godlike being and creature over Castle Grayskull. And he says something like, I am the master of the universe. It gave me goosebumps because we've never seen that. Skeletor finally did it. Of course, it's not going to stay like that. We know, obviously, redemption will eventually come, but it's cool to see that he finally did it because he never did it in the 80s cartoon. He was never doing that. And of course, that's how it's designed. I mean, that would be very traumatizing for kids, in the 80s. Be like, oh my God, but it was so cool to see. And to see that he finally did it. He conquered Castle Grayskull. That's an amazing cliffhanger. That's awesome shit. So I can't wait to see what happens next. So I was emotionally invested in the story. And I didn't think there was anything really, look, yes, are they giving more to do to Teela? and you know, helping to evolve and develop that character more because maybe it is modern times and that's something maybe would be nice to do. Sure. But it didn't feel preachy to me. It didn't feel shoehorned in. It felt organic to the narrative that was being told. So it didn't bother me. I was invested in the story. And that's how I felt about it. So unpopular opinion, I know, but I can't wait to see what happens next. I can't wait to, you know, to see what happens next. The only thing I can say to those of you that fucking hated it because there was hardly any He-Man is that, yeah, maybe there should have been a buffer. But unfortunately with 5 episodes, that they probably couldn't do that. You know, I think a lot of fans wanted to see He-Man tear some shit up, and they kind of did in the first episode, but then he's gone. And it's kind of like, but that, I think that's cool. It's like Luke Skywalker being gone. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, what the fuck's happening? You know, and you know he's coming back. Of course, Rian Johnson, Last Jedi shit. But that's a whole other thing. And for those of you out there that think, The Last Jedi was the single most disappointing movie-going experience of my life. So just keep that in mind before you call me names. So anyway, that's how I feel about it. If you're a Masters of the Universe fan, comment below and let me know your thoughts and how you felt about this new series. And if you liked it, if you didn't like it, keep it civil in the comments, please. Don't be a fucking dick. Just keep it civil. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And because I'd like to know. I'd love to know. And I think it'd be cool. But so far, so good, man. I'm invested. I'm invested. So far, so good. He-Man. Oh, and fucking, what's his face? Oh God, I always forget his name. Oppenheimer, who played Skeletor in the original series, plays Moss Man in this new series. I thought that was sweet. That was very sweet to extend that invitation for him to play that character. That was really cool. And Mossman's really cool. And it was really cool to see Stinkor, because although Stinkor was a character, action figure in the 80s, he was never in any of the 80s cartoons, I don't believe, in any of the episodes. He was just an action figure. And you got to see him here too, which was really cool. So, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue to evolve and more shit's going to happen as the series goes on. So hopefully, the backlash from the fans doesn't deter them at least completing the story. Maybe we're not going to get 5 or 6 seasons, but hopefully maybe they can complete the story because I'm invested. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. All my links are in the description. You can see down there my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter. Links in the description to my IMDb, my official websites, and all that stuff is down there as well. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, cheers.